Night had fallen. A blanket of stars twinkled above the sleepy town of Harmony Ridge. Inside his farmhouse, Samuel Thompson was preparing for bed. He had no idea that in the vast expanse above him, something watched. A silent, hovering craft, its underbelly glowing an eerie green. Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the sky, engulfing Samuel's home. The only sound, a faint electrical hum, then silence. When the light faded, Samuel was gone. Samuel awoke to a blinding light. Disoriented and confused, he found himself strapped to a cold, metallic table. Strange bipedal creatures with large, black eyes surrounded him. They communicated through a series of clicks and whistles, their intentions unclear. Fear gripped Samuel's heart. He was a prisoner, millions of miles from home, at the mercy of beings beyond his comprehension. A screen flickered to life above him, displaying a single image: a carton of strawberry milk. The spaceship was a marvel of advanced technology, yet one section seemed oddly out of place: a vast, verdant pasture. Here, the aliens were cultivating a unique species of grass. It shimmered with an otherworldly glow, its blades an impossible emerald green. Samuel watched in astonishment as the creatures herded a flock of goats toward the field. The goats devoured the grass with an almost frantic hunger, their bleating echoing through the strange artificial landscape. After consuming the glowing grass, the goats underwent a bizarre transformation. Their eyes turned a milky white, their bleats becoming high-pitched squeals. The aliens then herded the goats into another section of the ship, a sterile white room dominated by a large metallic contraption. It was a grinder. Samuel watched in horror as, one by one, the goats were ushered into the machine, their cries abruptly silenced as they were pulverized into a fine paste. The image was unsettling, deeply disturbing. The ground goat paste was then transported to a massive holding pen filled with ordinary-looking cows. The aliens pumped the paste directly into the cows' stomachs through a series of tubes and pumps. The process seemed agonizing for the cows, who mooed in distress. However, as days passed, something strange began to happen. The milk produced by the cows started to turn a pale pink, then gradually deepened to a vibrant, almost artificial shade of strawberry red. Back on Earth, weeks had passed since Samuel's disappearance. The authorities had no leads, and the townsfolk were, well, totally baffled. Life went on, pretty much oblivious to the cosmic horror unfolding millions of miles away. Then, one ordinary morning, something peculiar occurred. Delivery trucks from a company no one had ever heard of, Galactic Dairy, appeared in every town across the globe. Their product: fresh, delicious, and impossibly pink strawberry milk. The strawberry milk was, honestly, an instant hit. From the very first day it appeared on store shelves, it seemed to cast a spell over everyone who tasted it. Children begged for it in their lunchboxes. Parents found themselves reaching for it during late-night cravings, and even the most skeptical adults couldn't help but pour themselves a glass, just to see what all the fuss was about. Its taste was like nothing anyone had ever experienced before. Sweet, creamy, with a hint of something otherworldly. The flavor lingered on the tongue, a perfect balance of ripe strawberries and velvety milk, but with a subtle undertone that no one could quite place. It was as if the drink itself was designed to be irresistible, engineered to satisfy a craving you never knew you had. People described it as comforting, nostalgic, and yet strangely new, like a memory from childhood that you couldn't quite recall but desperately wanted to relive. No one questioned its source, or the speed at which it flooded the market. The cartons appeared overnight, filling every refrigerator in town, their bright pink labels promising happiness in every sip. Grocery stores couldn't keep up with the demand. Shelves were emptied within hours, and delivery trucks arrived daily, unloading crate after crate of the mysterious beverage. Rumors swirled about where it came from, but no one seemed to care. The only thing that mattered was getting more. It was simply too good to resist. Families gathered around kitchen tables, sharing stories and laughter over glasses of the pink drink. Friends brought cartons to picnics and parties, and even strangers bonded over their shared obsession. The strawberry milk became a symbol of togetherness, a sweet treat that brought people closer, if only for a moment. It was as if the whole town had fallen under its gentle, rosy spell. In Harmony Ridge, a young boy named Billy was pouring himself a glass of the crimson milk, his mother watching with a smile. She was happy to see her son so delighted, his eyes lighting up as the cold liquid filled his glass. To her, it was just another harmless treat, a simple pleasure in a world that often felt too complicated. She had no reason to suspect that anything was amiss. She had no idea what sinister secrets lay within that innocent-looking carton. The truth was hidden behind its cheerful packaging, waiting patiently to be discovered. For now, though, the strawberry milk was just a delicious mystery, one that everyone in Harmony Ridge was eager to taste, again and again. As Billy raised the glass of strawberry milk to his lips, the world around him seemed to slow down. The kitchen was filled with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore, a familiar comfort in the small coastal town of Harmony Ridge. Billy's fingers curled around the cool glass, his mind lost in the swirling pink liquid, unaware of the tension building in the air. In the living room, the television flickered, its blue glow casting strange shadows on the walls. The usual evening news anchor's voice was suddenly cut off, replaced by a jarring static that made the room feel colder, emptier. The family had gathered for their nightly routine, but tonight, something was different. Without warning, the screen flashed red, and an emergency broadcast alert blared through the speakers. The shrill tone echoed through the house, making Billy's mother drop the dish towel she was holding. The message was urgent, the words scrolling across the bottom of the screen. "This is not a test. Please remain indoors and await further instructions." Suddenly, the broadcast cut to a grainy, shaky video feed. The image was hard to make out at first, but then it became clear. A massive, disc-shaped object hovered in the night sky, its underbelly glowing an unnatural, pulsating green. The camera zoomed in, revealing strange symbols etched into the metal, flickering with an eerie light that seemed to pulse in time with the static on the screen. The news anchor's voice, now trembling, explained that the object was seen above Harmony Ridge, the very town where Billy and his family lived. The aerial footage showed the UFO casting a long, ominous shadow over the quiet streets and the dark, restless ocean beyond. People could be seen running outside, pointing up at the sky, their faces lit by the green glow. Billy's mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she stared at the screen in disbelief. Her eyes were wide with fear and confusion, searching for answers in the chaos unfolding on the television. She called out to Billy, her voice trembling, but he didn't respond. Billy sat motionless, his gaze fixed on the glass in his hands. The world around him seemed to fade away. The panic, the sirens, the flickering lights, all drowned out by his fascination with the swirling, vibrant milk. He didn't seem to notice the fear in his mother's voice, or the urgency in the broadcast. In the reflection of the glass, the bright red color of the milk shimmered in Billy's wide, innocent eyes. It was as if he was mesmerized, lost in a world of his own, untouched by the chaos erupting just beyond the kitchen walls. For Billy, in that moment, nothing else existed but the mysterious, glowing drink in his hands. Billy lifted the glass to his lips, curiosity flickering in his wide eyes. The milk was a vibrant, almost unnatural shade of pink, swirling with a faint shimmer that seemed to catch the kitchen light. He hesitated for just a moment, then took a slow, deliberate sip. The taste was unlike anything he'd ever known. Sweet, yes, but with a strange, otherworldly tang that lingered on his tongue. It was as if the flavor itself was alive, dancing across his taste buds, leaving a trail of tingling sensation in its wake. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause, the air thick with anticipation. Suddenly, without warning, a blinding white light erupted, flooding every corner of their home. The walls seemed to dissolve in the brilliance, shadows vanishing in an instant. The light was so intense it was impossible to tell where it began or ended. It was as if the sun itself had descended into their living room. The air vibrated with a low, humming energy, and the familiar world was swallowed by the overwhelming radiance. In the midst of the chaos, the television sparked violently, the screen warping and distorting before shattering in a spectacular burst of glass and electricity. Shards flew across the room, catching the light as they spun through the air, while the acrid scent of burning plastic filled the space. The explosion echoed like a thunderclap, adding to the sense of unreality that gripped the house. Billy's mother, frozen in shock for a split second, snapped into action. Her face twisted in terror as she screamed his name, her voice raw and desperate. She lunged across the room, arms outstretched, trying to reach her son through the blinding light. But the distance between them seemed to stretch impossibly, as if the very fabric of the room was warping, pulling Billy away from her grasp. Her scream was swallowed by the roar of the light, her hands closing on empty air. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the light vanished. The house was plunged into a heavy, unnatural silence. Dust motes drifted lazily through the air, illuminated by the faint returning sunlight. The living room, moments ago filled with chaos and noise, now felt hollow and abandoned, as if the world itself was holding its breath. On the kitchen floor, the glass of strawberry milk lay shattered, its contents splattered in a vivid, jarring pattern across the pristine white tiles. The pink liquid pooled and spread, seeping into the cracks, a stark reminder of the moment everything changed. The glass, once whole and ordinary, was now a symbol of the impossible event that had just occurred. Of Billy, there was no sign. His toy sat untouched, his favorite blanket draped over the arm of the couch, but the boy himself had vanished without a trace. The room felt colder, emptier, as if a piece of its soul had been taken. In the aftermath, only questions remained, echoing in the silence. Where had Billy gone, and what had made contact with their world?